Next country, we're going to the UK. Philip is the CEO of the TSA, and we'll give you an overview. Philip, over to you.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. And I will also endeavour to speak very slowly. I joined the TSA just over 2 years ago, and I now see us at the end of phase 1 of the strategy that I introduced when I first joined, along with our board, who have been very active and supportive. The whole point about what we're doing, I think, echoes many of the things that Kevin said. And I think the most significant thing, and in fact the thing that attracted me into the industry, because I'm from the pharmaceutical life sciences area originally, was the hidden nature of our sector and its pervasiveness across certainly the UK economy, and I expect all of your countries' economies as well. So when I came in, and I still think this is our key issues for our members, Brexit is bringing many problems to the UK. One of those is access to people. We have something called the national living wage, and that has gone up by over 8% the last 2 to 3 years every year. And one of the issues around that is actually many of our members are having to pay more than this basic living wage to attract people in. The third area is customer focus, and I think there has been a complete erosion of our relationship with our customers over many, many years. We have become commoditized. We are not seen as an essential service, which we need to change that perception. And I think finally, because of all of those issues, the squeeze on prices and margins means it's more difficult, ever more difficult, to invest in innovation, but it's essential to improve your efficiency and actually increase those margins. So there are some real dilemmas there for our members. This sounds somewhat similar to Kevin's, but we reviewed our mission for 2017 to 2022. And our mission is to really protect, nurture and develop the textile services industry and the supply chains in which it operates. When I came in, even our textile service members took our supply companies for granted. They are now core and part of what we do. We have what we call gold and silver supply partners who actively participate across our activities and financially support us, I would say, that they get much greater access to influencing what we do in a more joined up way. In terms of our 5-year vision, in the UK at least, we want our sector to be seen as forward-thinking, professional and environmentally responsible. And I think we do that, or try and achieve that, through several ways. Representing the views of our members externally, supporting training and CPD is continuous professional development. And I think that's been lacking to a certain extent amongst our members. And then the final thing is providing access to knowledge and resources to support members. And that's mostly achieved through networking. So when we try and talk about what we do, very quickly, there are 3 key areas. And there's a 4th one at the middle, which is networking. The first one is improving our external profile and improving our influence in government. When I came in, I searched the UK government or Parliament's records of mentions of our sector. They did not exist. That has already changed. And I'll talk about that in a moment. The second area is technical services. We work on standards for our members, with our members. We also provide support and information around health and safety, around logistics. And the final area is education and training support. That's a critical and growing area for us. We're still at the start of that curve. We're certainly not as well advanced as TRSA in the US, but we have some really big initiatives coming up. The critical point for all of this is how do we engage our members? And we do this through a number of networks we have. I'm hoping this is going to work. So across the top we have sector interest groups. So they are, obviously, pick up the right companies, and they decide what our focus is and our priorities in each of those areas, which I'll talk about in a moment. I have to say that we have just literally, hot off the press, moved the retail side, the dry cleaning and wet washing side for the consumer, out of our sector, and it has been passed to the UK Fashion and Textile Association. That was really because we felt there was greater similarity with the UKFT, and it was difficult for us to provide the full focus that it needed, and it helped us refocus on what we're doing. So the retail side is gone. At the lower level, we have what we call knowledge networks, and these are cross-cutting areas, which I'll talk about briefly. But all of these, the health and safety, technical standards, HR and training, and logistics, all of those decide our policy and our programme and actually work with us on delivering it. We have a number, we are only a small organisation, we have 4 members of staff, including myself, but we have 3 consultants who have all been working in the industry for many years, working for us on a monthly basis. So let me talk about this, and I hope you can read this, and I'll talk very briefly about it. Again, I'm sure you can get the slides from Robert and ETSA if you want to. If not, just come to me and I can give you my card and send them to you. So in 2017, we published an economic impact assessment, which I will talk about very briefly. This was to actually expose the hidden importance of our sector to the government and Parliament. Tied with this has been a public affairs campaign by a company we work with called GK Strategy, and that helps us with our targeting of key stakeholders. We're not so interested really in public awareness because they've got many other issues, but we are interested in getting into the right government departments and the right MPs so they can ask questions on our behalf. And we've done quite a lot on that. We've met with many government ministers and senior MPs recently around Brexit, around regulations. We've got an ongoing programme where we are getting MPs to come and visit our members' plants. And actually, most importantly, we have a parliamentary reception. It's actually in the House of Commons. It's a great place. It's right on the River Thames in a pavilion. It's superb. And we are then celebrating one of the works of our other areas, which is around education and training. We've launched a new apprenticeship, working with our members, and we're also celebrating what our members' trainings programmes have been, both in Scotland, in England and Wales. And that's going to be quite a big event because that's the first time we've really got into Parliament. I spoke about the economic impact assessment. Many of my colleagues will have seen this before, so I'm sorry about boring you with it, but it really was important because it laid down and illustrated and gives us something to give to the MPs. This, and it has a number of key issues, key illustrations. It has lots of data in it. But one of the things it does is it shows the reach of the sector. So really, if you add up all these different sectors, so you've got everything you can think of. You've got engineering, education, manufacturing, hospitality, extraction, mining, everything. Our services supply all of those sectors. If you add that up, it means that we directly support and are critical to businesses that give £960 billion of gross value added to the UK economy, which is quite impressive. Then they start listening to the MPs. The second thing we did was, what if textile service ceases to operate? So we did automotive manufacturing, hotels and hospitals. And we showed the problems they would be in if our members didn't provide a service on time and at the quality required. Let me just look briefly about the priorities in training. The apprenticeship has been worked on and has been launched. We also run a number of TSA courses So every 2 years now, it's actually called the Textile Service Rental Management course, we have a week-long residential course where we get about 24, 25 people, normally managers or upcoming managers in our sector, and they get a training course. And this course has been running actually for about 30 years. It's seen as a badge of almost graduation in our sector to go on and do something. We also have engineering courses, and those, engineering courses, I'm hoping, here we go. Engineering courses, and we run 2 of those this year, each with 12 people on it, very 2-day intensive course. Adding to that at the moment, we're actually working with a boiler company to do boiler training for our members, because this is something they asked for. Finally, the last piece that we're working on in 2018, and indeed in 2019, is mapping the skills pathway. So we can see where there are gaps in our members' training needs. We can provide almost an accreditation system to our members, and we can build our ongoing training programme moving forward. I know I'm taking a bit of a while. Let me just talk briefly about logistics. Technical support. So logistics, we have a logistics knowledge network. We are in the middle of preparing some guidelines, effectively a code of practice, on delivery point safety. Again, this is to support our members. So we will have an industry-wide standard that they can show to their customers when they have unacceptable delivery points. We're also doing other things like risk management reduction, recruitment, retention and training in that logistics area, but that's going to be an ongoing programme. Health and safety. We have a health and safety knowledge network. It's one of our most popular. I don't know about in your sector, but it's still a big issue for us. And we need to do better at it and be seen to be doing better at it. We've started, our members are reporting to us now, voluntarily. They're tracking the incidents, reporting it, and we have now reports which shows you what are the incidents, and we will then target information and best practice to help reduce that. So, for example, one of the things is, I think many of you know, is hand injury on cages. And one of the issues we're doing is bringing some industry guidelines which will actually be a standard that we can hopefully share with the manufacturers of cages and also the procurement in our member companies. The other thing that's not up there is about fire safety. 2018 and 2019 are going to be big push on fire safety because we've had a number of fires over the last couple of years, and our members are increasingly having problems getting insurance. There are fewer underwriters, so we are working on this to actually take to the insurance underwriters, and if our members follow our guidelines, we're hoping it will improve the situation and reduce the cost. Finally, I want to talk about I want to talk about CTWs. We have a code of practice that has now been reviewed recently and is available on our website, and we can share it via ETSA. We also had, for example, a cutting exercise into a tunnel washer, should the emergency services need it. We had a supply partner who had an old tunnel washer, and what they were looking at was how easy it would be to cut in, how long it would take, and what was the best form of cutting. And we are now using that information. It's not finished yet. It will be put back in as probably an addendum to the code of practice that we have. Finally, I'll skip through this. Policy priorities. Well, how could I proceed without mentioning Brexit? I'm afraid to say it's big, but the biggest issue for us is not around, we are neutral on whether it should or should not happen. What we are key is that our members continue to have access to staff. We did an employment trend survey. More than 52% of staff in our member companies are not from the UK. 38.8% are from non-UK European countries outside the UK and Europe. Which means that if we can't get those people, even at the operator level, there will be reduced supply potentially and increasing costs. So that is the message we're giving to the UK government. Finally, I think single-use plastics and synthetic microfibers, that's not going to go away as an issue. What we need to do is to be seen to be on the front foot. So, and really communicate why actually commercial laundry is much better than on-premise laundries, and it's different to domestic. But we need some more further evidence on that. And I think working with ETSA and colleagues, we can do that together. Finally, I'll very briefly talk about the sector priorities. So we have a few here, and some of them are similarly already been picked up. So profile training, knowledge sharing. In healthcare, we just started an active engagement program with our National Health Service. And finally, next year, we'll be really focusing on the profile of workwear and the importance of high-quality, professional commercial laundry. We share all our information with our members via a network, via our websites, and each of them, so for example, this is the Technical Standards Knowledge Network website, and you can see the documents and resources. So this first one is the CTW Code of Practice, the Tunnel Washer Code of Practice, and anybody can have that. We also have more wider resources on here that our members can access. Some of them are open to the public, but not many. Finally, nearly finally, meetings in 2018. This gives you an idea of the programme. We're much smaller than the TRSA, but we have 3 major meetings and a number of smaller meetings. So we have a national conference. This is in November in the Mayfair in London. We have a sector interest groups meeting all together, normally in the spring, and that happened in March. We've just had an operations managers meeting. It was our first one. We had 80 people, 80 delegates there. We only have 220 sites in the UK. So we had a very positive meeting, and we're certainly going to continue that in the future. Our knowledge network, networks meet 1 to 3 times a year. We also do other meetings. I've mentioned the engineering courses, the energy seminar as well. So we're pretty active at different levels and at different types and sizes of meetings. Finally, for 2019, looking forward, we've been talking about a new charter. What we want to do is that will be a basic level where our members commit to certain basic level standards. And then what they can do, they can look at getting marks, badges for improving in certain areas, whether it's environmental standards, whether it's healthcare, whether it's different areas. And finally, the other thing we're doing is trying to bring in a single prestigious award for our sector in the UK. Currently we have 2, both run by the trade press. They're 2 weeks apart normally, and they duplicate the prizes. We want to work with them, but we would like to focus on the people in our sector, because I think it's the people in our industry that make it work and function, and they're not recognised enough. So we will be looking at doing individual awards focused on people, logistics, health and safety, customer services, innovation and environment. So that's it. Our focus is very clear. Improving our profile and influence, supporting our members through technical services as well as education and training. Thank you.